From a distance, Umuokwe looked like paradise, palm trees swaying, birds singing, and golden sunlight blessing the fields. But beneath its beauty lay a curse so heavy that no man or woman was allowed to prosper. Those who left came back empty, and those who tried to rise never lived long enough to enjoy it. In this village where hope was forbidden, one boy dared to dream beyond the curse. His name was Mbakwe, and his fight would either destroy him or break the chains that bound his people for generations. Umuokwe was a village blessed with beauty. It had a lovely and calm scenery. From a distance, it looked like paradise. The red earth paths wound gracefully between tall palm trees. In the mornings, the golden sun rose over the farmlands, casting a warm glow on the cassava and yam leaves heavy with dew. Birds chirped endlessly in trees, and there was the gentle hum of the nearby village stream. To an outsider, Umuokwe was peace, simplicity, and nature's finest gift. But beneath its calm and peaceful exterior lay a truth that the elders whispered about only in hushed tones: a curse, an unseen hand that gripped the destiny of the people. In Umuokwe, no man or woman was allowed to rise beyond the ordinary. No matter how brilliant, no matter how hardworking, the outcome was always the same: failure. Please support this growing channel by subscribing, like, and comment. Your support means everything to us. For generations, it was said that whoever left the village to seek greener pastures would eventually return empty-handed. Some came back bankrupt, others disgraced, and the few who tasted success, who dared to prosper, and tried to return home with wealth never lasted as long. As soon as they stepped foot on Umuokwe soil, sickness from nowhere would strike them down. Strange fevers, mysterious pains, or sometimes sudden accidents until they were carried to an early grave. Umuokwe was a village where progress was forbidden, where every step towards success carried the weight of fear, and though the curse was unseen, its shadow loomed over every household, every dream, and every heart that longed for freedom. It was a cycle so frightening that many young people in the village chose to remain in poverty rather than test fate. Mothers wept as they watched their sons' dreams wither, and fathers shook their heads in helplessness, warning, "Do not challenge the spirits of the land. The curse of Umuokwe spares no one." The village square, once meant for festivals and celebrations, had become a place of fear. When the drums beat, it was often to announce another death, another promising youth cut down just when life had begun to smile on him. Hope was like a fragile flame in Umuokwe, always flickering, never steady. And yet, the beauty of the village remained as if mocking the people with its serenity. Outsiders admired Umuokwe, but those who lived there knew that the streams, the forest, and even the winds carried secrets too heavy to speak aloud. It was said that at night, if one listened closely by the old Iroko tree, whispers could be heard, voices of ancestors bound by an ancient wrong, their cries woven into the destiny of the living. Among the children of Umuokwe, one stood out like a candle in a dark room. His name was Mbakwe, the only son of Mazi Omi, a struggling farmer, and Mamebere, the trader who sold peppers, tomatoes, and palm oil at the village market. Their hearts were small, their meals often meager, but within the home lived a boy whose heart carried dreams far bigger than his circumstances. From childhood, Mbakwe's mind worked differently. Where others saw mere wood, he imagined chairs, tables, and carvings that could tell stories. He was sharp, quick to learn, and endlessly creative. His teachers often whispered that if he had the chance to study further, he could become someone great. But greatness in Umuokwe was a dangerous thing. The shadow of the village curse loomed, and his parents worried that ambition could lead their son to ruin. Still, Maziomi and Mamebere sacrificed all they could to keep him in school. They sold extra baskets of cassava, skipped meals, and endured debts just to see their son wear a neat uniform. But when the time came for university, reality struck. There was no money. The dream of higher education ended at their doorstep. Mbakwe did not despair. Instead, he turned his restless mind towards a skill he could master with his hands. He told his father that he would love to learn a skill since they cannot afford for him to go to a university. "Nah, which skill would you like to learn?" his father asked. "Furniture making," he answered with excitement. His father took him to apprentice under Ukpo, the village's best carpenter, and he threw himself into the skill with unusual passion. In just a few months, he learned things that took others years to grasp. Ukpo often stared at him in amazement, muttering, "This boy, he walks as though the spirit themselves guide his hands." But behind Mbakwe's determination lay a deeper fire. He wanted more than survival. He wanted to build, to rise, to prove that even in a cursed village like Umuokwe, a man's destiny could be different. His story was only beginning, but already the winds of the village seemed to stir uneasily around him, as if the curse itself had noticed his daring dreams. One day, Mbakwe carved a chair, a small chair with a design no villager had ever seen before. It caught the eye of a trader passing through Umuokwe. The trader carried it to a nearby town where it drew stares and admiration. Soon, word spread, "There is a boy in Umuokwe who works with wood as though he were born with it in his blood." Months later, a team of talent scouts from the city, searching for raw skill to nurture, journeyed into the village. When they entered Ukpo's humble workshop, they were astonished. The boy did not just shape wood, he breathed life into it. His tables stood elegant. His chairs almost spoke with grace and class. His carvings seemed to watch you with knowing eyes. One scout whispered, "This is not ordinary. It's so beautiful. How did you learn this?" he asked. Mbakwe smiled and answered, "I just make them with knowledge of furniture making I learned here. The designs just come to me." "This boy belongs in the city," one of the scouts said. "With proper training, he could rise beyond even our imagination." They asked for the permission of his parents to go back to the city with him. Mbakwe's parents, Mazi, Omi, and Mamebere, were caught between joy and dread. Their hearts swelled with pride. After years of sacrifice, their son was finally seen. But at night, fear gnawed at their souls. They had seen it before. Men and women who prospered, who dared to return with wealth or honor, soon withered like leaves in harmattan. Some fell mysteriously ill. Others died without reason. Could they send their only son into the world of success, knowing the curse of Umuokwe lurked in the shadows, waiting for its next victim? The villagers too murmured. Some envied, others pitied. One old man shook his head and muttered, "Every step towards progress in Umuokwe is a step towards danger." Yet Mbakwe himself was undaunted. His eyes burned with determination. To him, the city was not just an escape, it was destiny calling. And so, with trembling hands, yet hopeful hearts, his parents released him to the world, unaware that his rising star might awaken the darkest powers of the curse that bound Umuokwe. The city welcomed Mbakwe with almost open arms, and almost instantly he began to shine. After 6 months of advanced training in professional furniture making, he was equipped to start his small workshop. His hands carried a rare gift. Every stroke of his chisel birthed designs that blended tradition with modern elegance. Clients marveled not only at the beauty of his work, but also at the precision of his finishing. Soon, his name became a widespread recommendation in elite circles. If you want a furniture that speaks uniqueness and class, go to Mbakwe. Money flowed in, but Mbakwe did not allow pride to cloud his vision. From a cramped, self-contained apartment, he upgraded to a modest one-bedroom flat, a small step, yet a milestone he cherished deeply. Then came the day he opened his showroom in one of the city's wealthy estates. Polished floors, glass doors, and shining displays. It was everything he had dreamed of. Customers walked in, not just to buy furniture, but to witness the magic of Umuokwe's son. Yet, even in the midst of success, a shadow lingered. His father visited him once, and his mother, Mamebere, visited him twice. She walked through his showroom with pride swelling in her chest, tears glistening in her eyes, but behind her smile lay a silent fear. She knew what Umuokwe did to its children who soared too high. At night, she prayed, "God of heaven, shield my son from the curse of our land." Mbakwe noticed her unease, but brushed it aside. To him, this was only the beginning. With confidence, he told his parents, "It is time. I want to build a house of my own." The words were bold, hopeful, and filled with joy. Yet, in the background, the curse of Umuokwe stirred, watching, waiting. When Mbakwe finally returned to Umuokwe, he did not come empty-handed. His car was packed with bags of rice, wrappers for his mother, new clothes for his father, and some gifts for the children in nearby compounds. As he stepped into his family's mud-walled home, joy filled the air like sweet incense. Neighbors gathered, whispering, "Mbakwe has made it. Perhaps the curse is broken." That evening, his father, Mazi Omi, placed his weathered hands on Mbakwe's head and spoke blessings with trembling lips. "My son, you have made us proud. May your light never dim." "Ise," his mother answered. Mamebere could hardly stop her tears. Laughter filled the household, the sound of a family tasting happiness after years of struggle. But that night, as the moon bathed Umuokwe in pale light, something sinister stirred. Mbakwe went to the backyard to bathe, humming softly as he poured water over his head. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, unnaturally cold. He froze. A shadow moved without form, and then a force struck him from behind. Not a human hand, not something seen. An invisible blow that shook his very bones. Mbakwe staggered. Gasping for breath, his heart pounded violently. His body seized as though unseen chains had wrapped around him. He tried to call out, but only a strangled cry escaped his lips before he collapsed with a scream that pierced the night. Mamebere dropped the bowl in her hands and ran. Her eyes widened in horror. Her son lay sprawled on the ground, his face pale, his body trembling. "Chimo! Alaumokwe! Mbakwe! Mbakwe!" she cried, lifting his head onto her lap. His eyes fluttered. Barely conscious, his lips whispering words she could not understand. The joyous return had turned into a night of terror. The curse of Umuokwe had happened, and it had chosen its next victim. At dawn, the compound was very quiet. Mamebere had not slept all night, watching her son breathe faintly on his raffia mat. When Mbakwe finally stirred, his eyes opened slowly, filled with exhaustion but strangely calm. His parents rushed to his side, expecting him to ask for the village healer. Instead, he whispered hoarsely, "Papa, don't call the dibia. Don't call anyone." Maziomi frowned, startled. "My son, what are you saying? You need medicine. You need help." But Mbakwe shook his head weakly. "No, Papa. What I need is simple. Heat water till it steams, and let Mama press it against my body with a thick cloth. Then prepare pepper soup for me. But not just any soup. You must use 3 herbs, freshly harvested uda from the farm, wild nchamu from a river bank, and a root called akaraka. They must boil together." His mother froze. She knew those herbs well, but they were never used together, especially the akaraka. The root was rare, known only to ancient herbalists. She exchanged a bewildered glance with her husband. "My son, how did you know of these things? Who told you?" Mamebere asked, her voice trembling. Mbakwe's lips curled into a faint, mysterious smile. His eyes, though tired, carried a depth neither parent had ever seen before. He placed a weak hand on his father's arm and whispered, "Papa, Mama, in good time I will explain. For now, trust me." The room fell silent. His parents obeyed, though fear gnawed at their hearts. Where had this knowledge come from? How could their son, a carpenter, speak with the tongue of the ancients? As the pot began to boil in the kitchen, an unspoken truth settled over the household. Mbakwe was no longer just their son. Something greater had touched him. The sun had barely risen when Mazi Omi tied his wrapper firmly around his waist and stepped out into the thick morning mist. His heart was heavy, yet determined. His only son's life hung on a fragile thread, and the key to saving him lay in the forest's secrets. The neighbors sensed something was wrong and whispered amongst themselves. They've heard mild noise from Mazi Omi's house a few days back, but felt it was nothing, especially since the family didn't invite or inform anyone about it. But when they stopped seeing Mbakwe or hearing his voice, also seeing Mazi Omi and his wife moving about with long faces and sad eyes, they knew that something is definitely not right. But since they weren't telling anyone anything, they decided to watch and see. "Time will surely tell. Nothing can be hidden under the sun forever," they whispered. For 3 long days, Mazi Omi scoured the farmlands and bushes surrounding Umuokwe. He spoke to hunters, old farmers, and even wandering herdsmen, begging for guidance. By the 2nd day, he had managed to find uda, the black spice pods often used by women after childbirth. On the 3rd day, he stumbled upon nchamu, the fragrant scent leaf growing wild near a stream. But the most important one, akaraka, the ancient root, remained elusive. Back at home, Mamebere watched helplessly as Mbakwe grew weaker. The once strong and vibrant young man who carved chairs with the precision of an eagle's talon could now barely lift a cup of water. His body trembled, and sweat poured down his skin. Several times in the night, he gasped as if his soul was slipping away. She sat by his side, fanning him, whispering prayers between sobs. Chukwokike, please don't let my son die. Don't let the enemies of Umuokwe laugh at us, Biko. Meanwhile, in the bustling city, Mbakwe's absence created ripples. Orders piled up in his workshop, clients grew restless, and calls went unanswered. Some whispered that success had gotten to his head, others suspected foul play. The investors who once praised his designs began to question his reliability. But in Umuokwe, the truth was far darker. As the fourth day approached, Maziomi dragged himself home, his hands blistered, his feet caught from thorns. He carried the 2 herbs he had found, but no akaraka root. His face was etched with despair. Mbakwe lay motionless, his breathing shallow, his eyes flickering between life and death. Mamebere clutched his frail hand, her tears soaking the mat beneath him. And in the silence of that night, the dread became real. Time was running out. Somewhere in the unseen, the curse of Umuokwe laughed, waiting for another dream to be buried. Long before the first cock crowed, Maziomi rose from his raffia mat. His bones ached from days of fruitless wandering, but the father's love gave him strength. With only a walking stick and a raffia bag, he set out toward Umuokwe, the neighboring village, said to have rare plants hidden in its untouched groves. The path was lonely, wrapped in heavy fog that swallowed even the sound of his footsteps. Every rustle of leaves made him glance over his shoulder. His mind played tricks. What if the curse of Umuokwe was watching, waiting for him to fail? As he approached the border, his legs trembling with fatigue, a chill swept across his spine. Then, out of silence, came a voice, deep, steady, and unmistakably close. "Look onto your right." Maziomi froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. He slowly turned, and there, by the roots of a giant iroko tree, something caught the faint touch of the morning sun. It was the akaraka root. Short, gnarled, and pulsing with a strange glow, as though life itself flowed through it. His breath caught in his throat. This was no ordinary plant. This was destiny. Dropping to his knees, he dug with his bare hands, ignoring the thorns and the sting of ants. Sweat dripped down his face as he wrestled the stubborn root free. When it finally yielded, he clutched it to his chest, his eyes glistening with relief. "Chineke, you have not abandoned me," he whispered, his voice breaking. With trembling legs, he rose and hurried back through the misty path, every step filled by urgency and hope. His heart pounded louder than the morning birds. He knew this route was the bridge between life and death for his son. As the first rays of dawn spread across Umuokwe, Maziomi quickened his pace, carrying the fate of his family in a raffia bag. When Maziomi returned home, drenched in sweat and trembling from exhaustion, he placed the raffia bag in Mamebere's hands. Inside lay the 3 precious herbs, each glowing faintly as though the ancestors themselves had blessed them. Mbakwe, pale and weak, whispered instructions he claimed had come to him in a dream. With steady but anxious hands, Mamebere set to work. She crushed the roots, boiled the leaves, and seasoned the steaming pepper soup, following the instructions with exact precision. The kitchen filled with an aroma unlike anything she had ever known, sharp, earthy, and strangely comforting. When Mbakwe sipped the first bowl, a hush fell over the household. His chest rose slowly, his lips quivered, and then he exhaled deeply, as though a heavy burden had been lifted. That night, for the first time since his collapse, he slept peacefully. The days rolled on, and with each sunrise, Mbakwe grew stronger. By the 3rd day, he sat up, unaided, his once dim eyes shining with life again. On the 5th day, he stood and walked across the courtyard to the astonishment of neighbors who whispered that the gods had intervened. By the 7th day, Mbakwe was fully restored. His laughter echoed through the compound like music long forgotten. It was not just a healing, it was a sign. The curse that had bound Umuokwe for generations had been broken. Word spread like wildfire. Elders who had long carried despair in their faces now spoke of hope. Children played with a new kind of freedom, their laughter unhindered by the shadow of fear. Farmers tilled their soil with renewed strength. Traders counted their coins with confidence, and families dared to dream again. Umuokwe, once silent in poverty, now stirred with life. The chains of misfortune had fallen, and in their place a dawn of prosperity rose. And at the heart of it all stood Mbakwe, the dreamer who had survived the curse, and by his survival changed the destiny of an entire people. When Mbakwe finally returned to the city, it was as though a new spirit had entered him. The weakness of the past was gone. In its place stood a man sharpened by trial and strengthened by mystery. His steps were firm, his eyes carried a glow of confidence, and his hands, once trembling from illness, now moved with renewed vigor as they shaped wood into masterpieces. His showroom, which had stood silent during his illness, now burst with activity. Clients who had nearly given up on him returned in droves, drawn not just to his craft, but to the energy that seemed to radiate from him. Orders flowed in from wealthy estates, high-ranking officials, and even foreign buyers who had heard whispers of the furniture man who survived death. Each piece he made was more than just furniture. It carried destiny. His designs became symbols that beauty can rise even from the shadows of a curse. His business expanded quickly. Within months, Mbakwe opened a second showroom, larger and more elegant than the first. Back in Umuokwe, the story of his healing spread like wildfire. Parents no longer whisper warnings to their children about hidden curses. The shadow of poverty did not choke the village anymore. Farmers returned from their fields with baskets overflowing. Young men and women began new ventures without fear of doom. The village, once called a land of silent tears, was now celebrated as a land of second chances. And yet, Mbakwe never forgot where he came from. Every month, he journeyed home, bringing not just gifts for his parents, but opportunities for his people. Jobs in his expanding company, scholarships for children, and projects that transformed Umuokwe into a place of pride. As he stood one evening on his balcony in the city, overlooking the glowing lights, he whispered to himself, "Every step towards progress in Umuokwe was once a step towards danger, but now every step is a step into greatness." Umuokwe was free, Mbakwe was stronger than ever, and together they had broken the chains of a curse that had lasted for generations. His parents were already talking about getting married, asking if they should find a wife from the village. He respectfully rejected the offer, telling them he would find his wife himself. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. See you in the next video.